Hey, welcome back. I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to start a new series called, I'm going to call it Excursions. And what it is a series on some more advanced topics than what we're going to cover in the main projects that we go over. So for instance, we're working on a real estate platform right now on this channel, and there are oftentimes topics that I don't have time to cover when we go through some of the steps in that project, and some a little bit more advanced things that might distract you from the main lesson. And so I want to I want to have an opportunity to be able to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of those topics, so that I don't overwhelm you with too much information when we're going through the real estate platform. If I did include all of that stuff, the real estate platform videos would just take forever and ever, and not stay very focused. So this will give me an opportunity to show you some other things outside of the project but related. For instance, today what I'm going to do is cover data access patterns. And so if you watched my last video on the real estate platform, I did briefly talk about some of the data access patterns that I have already included in the project to kind of help me clean up and stay organized and keep the code nice and tidy. And so I didn't have a lot of time to really go through that a lot, and so I promised you that I would do another video devoted to just that, and that's what we're going to do today. So so data access patterns. What am I talking about? Basically, you may have heard of design patterns in software engineering, computer science. Design patterns, there's one called the repository pattern. Basically what it is, it kind of keeps your business logic abstracted and separate from your database logic. And when I say database logic in the context of a payload app, I'm talking about either the REST API or the local API in Payload. So by design, Payload doesn't really know about your business logic. And good that the local API that you're working with is abstracted away from your app in a way that allows it to be useful for more general cases for everyone. But oftentimes, when it's built that way, you end up sort of copying and pasting a lot of the similar code for a lot of different types of data requirements and operations that you're doing. Whereas if you were to sort of wrap up some of those patterns in a way that's more meaningful to your specific app, then it would start to make more sense and stay a little bit better organized in your app. For instance, business logic I'm talking about is like something as simple as get property by ID. So when you're on the property page, in case of our real estate app, there's an ID in the URL, and we want to be able to grab the ID, use the ID to do a query on Payload to get the property detail. Now, that's a really basic example because it's really not that difficult to do find by ID, which Payload offers. And so that's fairly straightforward, but even that has some bloat to it that can potentially be repeated over and over again throughout your app. And that is, you have to import your config, your Payload config, import the get payload function, and then you do an await. You get payload, await, get payload with that config. And so you find yourself repeating that a lot. And one simple way to clean that up, at least, is just to create another function in like your lib folder called getPayloadClient, and then that handles the config for you. At least you have that. So then in your app, you can just say payload equals get payload client. You don't have to import the config or anything. So that's a much simpler example. And if it were just that, I would probably say you don't need any additional abstractions. Let's take another example for business logic. getPostBySlug. So there's nothing inherent in Payload local API or REST API that says, hey, we know about slugs, and so we're going to go ahead and query those for you on your behalf. And so no, you have to include a where clause. You have to say where slug or equals slug, and then pass in the slug from the URL, something like that. And then also you have to pass in the collection name, and then also you have to do a limit 1, and then you have to say, give me the first document, and then return the first document, and if it's not there, if it doesn't exist, what are you going to do in that case? Are you going to throw an error, or are you going to, in the case of Next.js, are you going to execute that not found response? So it generates a 404. So all kinds of questions around that. And so Payload, the local API, is abstracted away from that by design, and that's a good thing. But it would be nice to try to keep all of that stuff. So it would be nice to be able to keep all that stuff organized in a meaningful way in the context of your app. So you may have a function called getPostBySlug. That's pretty much it. And you can put that in a lib folder, and then all the logic exists in there. But then maybe you have another collection that also you can retrieve by slug. So then do you create another function called getPageBySlug, getUserBySlug? That's not a good example, but you understand what I'm saying is, like, you find yourself having to repeat a lot of this stuff over time. As you start to develop your app, you're going to start to see these common patterns. And it would be nice to be able to sort of wrap those patterns up into organized sort of abstractions. So that's what we're going to work on today in the context of the real estate app. There's some business logic, some meaningful ways to organize our data. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. However, in this video, I'm not going to discuss it in terms of the real estate app. I'm going to do it on a demo e-commerce app. So it's a little bit more basic. Some basic ideas that you're probably very familiar with: carts, cart items, product pages, category pages, and registration, user registration, and that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to show you the demo, and then I'm going to go over the code to show you some of the ways that so you understand, like, why it's kind of not the best way to handle your data. And so we're gonna wrap it all up in a nice, organized, meaningful way according to the e-commerce app. All right, so let's take a look at the demo. All right, so I'm over here in this fake website, e-commerce demo. Pretty standard stuff. We have browse by products. Pretty standard. You can go to a product detail page. You have a slug in the URL. Go back to products. You have an add to cart. I'll sign in here in a second. Description, price, stock, quantity, all of that. We also have a categories page, and then you can see all the products by category slug. And here's all the products again. So now if you sign in, you can do, let's create an account. Oops, demo user. Okay, so you see I'm already logged in here. That was very quick. I I have this avatar here, shows the initials demo user. So now we're back on the products. We can actually now add some of this stuff to the cart. Added to the cart. Let's add a couple more things from category, some clothing. There we go. And now we can actually go to our cart. And here's the quantity. You can delete things from your cart. And then now we can proceed to checkout. This is kind of just pre-filled here for you. You can have different payment methods. None of this actually works. It's just for demo. And so you can select either Apple Pay, PayPal, this kind of thing. And then place order. And now there's an order page, order detail page. You can continue shopping. This track order doesn't do anything. And then if you navigate away, how do you get back to your orders? Well, you can go see my orders here. And now you have a list of all of your orders, some order summary information. We're not going to get into the admin side of things, but in the admin panel, there's all kinds of options. You can say the admin can come in here and change the status of the order, like processing to shipping and then to delivered, that kind of stuff. You go into here, here's that same order detail page. Cool. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of naive maybe way of managing all of that data, and then see how we can refactor it to be a little bit more meaningful and organized and maintainable. All right, so we have the store here. So the front end is just going to be everything under the store. It's just my way of organizing things. We have our home page. No data access going on here. But then we have our products. We have product detail page by slug, and then all the products. And then here you can see we have our metadata. And then here we're saying here's our products page, and now we're doing find all products, limit 1, sort by name, limit 100, sorry. Here's our products, and then products docs, pretty standard stuff. We have a product card, takes the product and then just creates a card with a link that takes you to the product detail page, which then is over here. Here we're saying generate metadata, because this is an example of where it can kind of start to get messy. So we have generate metadata. So on the browser, you can see here, if you, let's see if we can do this. Elements, and then go to title. So you can see the name of the product is right there in the title. So that's what generate metadata does in a Next.js app. So we grab the slug from the URL. And this is that get payload client. Rather than pass that config around all the time, I just created a function called getPayloadClient, and this manages the payload, setting it up for me and returning it. Fairly straightforward. That's probably a common pattern. So we have the payload client, and then we say get products where slug equals slug, limit 1, result, and then we say if not result, total docs, meaning no products were returned. I put title as product not found, description, the product you're looking for could not be found. This is again for the metadata. And so here, now that we know, if you get to this point, we do at least have one document. We grab the first one, and then so we do the category name, We grab the category name off of that product. And then, so we do have a description that's also in the collection, but basically there's some logic here, some business logic here to grab the description for me so we can put it in the metadata. So now when we get to the actual page component directly, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab the current user on the product detail page. You don't have to be logged in for this, but I'll show you why I'm using the user here in a second. We just copied and pasted this query, and then pasted it here. Same query, same logic, but in this case we do a not found, a Next.js not found, which just returns a 404. Here we know we have at least one document. We grab the first one, product name. If there's a product category, we grab the product we display the category name. Product inventory, the number of items left in stock. Description, add to cart. So here's our add to cart form. This is where the user is coming into play here, and I just set it to a Boolean. So if is authenticated. And so if you go into the cart here, you can see is authenticated, yes or no. And if it's not, it just disables basically the button. And then if it is authenticated, then we do we do some out of stock stuff here. There's some logic there. You can remove, or you can update the quantity that you're going to be adding to the cart. Here's the actual button form. Here's the icon, and then adding is authenticate. If it's not authenticated, it tells you to sign in or add to cart. And just some error messaging or success messages. All right, so there's that. And then lastly, we have, let's just kind of try to get through this a little bit quicker. We have our categories page. We have the category list. So here's our similar thing. We say get categories, just give me all the categories. And then we loop through them by docs. And then we have the slug. And then we're just linking to each of these categories. This is basically like a card. And then we link to that, which takes you to the detail page of the category. So here we have generate metadata. Again, we grab the category that we're on by slug, grab the first category. If there's not a category, it's like a 404. Here we're just now, if we're at this point, we grab the title, render the title and the description. We have some error handling here. And then now on the actual component of the page, we do the same thing. Find the category, but this time by slug, although, oh yeah, I did it. I did it here too. That's fine. By slug here, do total docs. If it didn't find anything, we get a not found 404 page. Grab the first category, and then now we want to be able to grab all the products associated with that category. And so we, like in our collection, we have a relationship field to the product collection, and so we can just say products equals category.products as product array. So this is the product type, and then .docs here, or empty array. And so now we say products.length. If length is not 0, then we can now loop through the products. And then this product card is the same one that we were using before on the products page, so we don't have to copy and paste all of that into a different component. This is the same component that we used on the home page, or on the products page. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's some other areas that we're instantiating the payload client and all of that, and doing a little bit more queries on the cart page. But it's all basically the same on the orders list page and on the cart page. It's all kind of doing something similar, where we're having to go through the standard local API to grab everything. All right. So now let's start to refactor this to be a little bit more organized and meaningful about what we're trying to do here in this demo e-commerce app. So before we get started, I want to mention one caveat here. Everything that I'm going to show you today is obviously completely optional. If you like what I just showed you, if that's fine with you, and then that's fine with me. You're completely welcome to organize your data access in any way that you find comfortable to you and your team especially. So keep in mind that you're likely going to be working on a team, and so just kind of keep all of that in the context of this. So have a discussion with your team if you're going to be doing something like this, and make sure they're all on board. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a negotiation maybe. So keep that in mind. All right, so the first thing I want to do, let's talk about the repository pattern. And the repository pattern basically is sort of a way of encapsulating a lot of the logic that I showed you, kind of separate from the payload client itself, the payload local API. So we're going to wrap up all of these kind of functions separated from the payload client in a way that, and then name these functions in a more meaningful way. And I'm going to do that through classes. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to think about how I want to do it. Let's start with the property detail page to kind of keep things a little bit simple here. So what do we have here? We have the get metadata here. So we're repeating this same code for the metadata and the product detail page itself. So a lot of this stuff is repeated. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to sort of think through how I would like to have this work before I actually implement it. And so we can kind of comment some of this stuff out and just start to think about, like, how would this work? How would you want this to work? And for me, these are just my preferences. Please think through like how you would like to interact with the database. You don't have to follow the conventions that Payload CMS discusses or demonstrates in their example code. Try to think about how you would want to do it in the context of the app that you're working in and what makes sense for that app, but also using patterns that are familiar to you and the team that you may be working with. So I like to sort of design the API I wish I had. And again, that's a bit subjective, but so let's see what this might look like. So we have a product, obviously. It's likely going to be in await, and then we're going to do I'm going to probably have some way of accessing the product data by name. So it'd be like, for instance, product. It wouldn't be product, but because that's a name used already. But I'll probably have some kind of like namespace. And the reason why I will have a namespace is because specifically for the local API is because I may have similar requirements, abstraction requirements or preferences, not just around the local API, but also the REST API. In fact, that's going to be highly likely. And so what I'll probably do is I'll have like a namespace called local for local API, another namespace for REST for the REST API, and if you like, a namespace for GraphQL or GQL, however you want to create that namespace. And so with that namespace, I'll have something like local dot product. All right, stop it. Product dot, and then here's that sort of business logic. Get product by slug. So now you can kind of see that's a little bit redundant. So I'll probably just kind of do it like this, get by slug, because we already know we're talking about products. And then all you need to do is pass in the slug like that. And to me, this seems pretty nice. And so now we would just be able to copy this over for the generate metadata. We don't need any of this stuff. We're also not passing in the collection, which is super nice. We're not having to manage the where clause. We're not having to manage the limit and returning a single doc. We know for a fact the way I want it to work is that this is going to return a single doc. And then for the not found, this is going to be something you're going to be doing quite a bit. And so I thought, you know what? It would be nice if my repository would handle that for me as well. So while we wouldn't want it to necessarily crash on the generate metadata or show a 404 on the metadata, what I could do is I could say getBySlug or fail. And what that means is this function will handle the not found for me. And so now you have this pattern that you may use for any of the types of pages you're working on. You no longer have to worry about, oh, is there a product? If there's not a product, not found, none of this logic you have to worry about. And so if you return a product here, you're guaranteed to have a product, because if there wasn't, you'd be seeing a 404 by this point, and you'd have your product ready to go. All right, so I think this is pretty good. I may shoot for this. I'm going to start trying to implement something like this. All right, so let's do that. So under source, I may do. Well, let's just create a new folder called. We'll call it. You can call it whatever you want. Let's just call it repository, and then under there we can create a file called local. That's going to be our namespace, and then we're just going to export const local like that, and this is where we would have stuff like product like that, and then now we just need to decide what is the product. Well, I mentioned it's going to be a class, so let's go ahead and create that class, product and .ts, or we'll call it product, and I'll just call it a model for now. You can call it repo. I'll just call it model, but the concept is the same. So in our product model, we have an export class product model like that. And we already said we wanted a function that was called getBySlug or fail. So we have a function called getBySlug or fail. This is going to be an async function like that. And now what you could do is you can just copy all of this in there. And this is not the least of our, or this is not the full abstraction that you can get to This is just the first step. And so we have slug, and rather than just say this is a string, even though I know it's a string, it's a good habit to just kind of think about the types a little bit more carefully. And yeah, you could just put string in obviously that would work, but I just want to get in the habit of doing something like product, grab the product type, and then in there you say slug. So you can see that's returning a string, but I just like to make sure that this stuff all lines up perfectly. And you can see our collection is being set to products. And then we have our not found like that. And so there's our product model and our first method on that. So now we can say product equals new product model like that, or product repository, whatever you want to call it. So this is almost ready to go. Now we can get rid of, where did that go? Here we go. We can get rid of all of this. We can get rid of this, and we can get rid of this, and just now do that. And then import this like that. So what's being returned here is void. We want to be able to return the product. Result. The first one, or docs. The first one like that. There we go. And so now you can see here we have a product. It's returning a product type. And there we go. Let's see if that works. So let's refresh our page. And that still works. You can prove that. Let's just change the name. I'm going to change the name real quick. So you can see I just changed the name, so that we know that name is coming from the database, and we know that that product is coming from our new method. All right, so that's working. Now we just need to use that same function for the metadata. So over here, we can now get rid of all of this. And actually, we want a different version now. We don't want to fail, because we don't want to return a not found for the metadata, although that might work. I'm not exactly sure, but let's try something a little different. Let's just copy this, and instead of slug or fail, just say getBySlug. And this is going to return product or null. And here we're going to say this is going to be, yeah, we'll leave that here. Like so. Oh, this needs to be wrapped in a promise. Like that. And now for the fail, we don't need to copy all of this stuff. We can just now reuse the, this. We don't need this. And now we can just say const product equals await this dot getBySlug, slug, like that. And now we have the product or null. And now we just say if not product, fail, and then return product. And so now we've been able to sort of clean this up a little bit. And this is the main function. And then if this main function doesn't return anything, we fail. Now over here for our metadata, now we can just say, we can just grab this, and instead of getBySlug or fail, we can just say getBySlug. And then we can just say not product, like that. And then we can get rid of that. And I believe that is everything on this page. Let's go back to the browser and kind of test it out. And now you can see here we have our description just like we had it before, and the title is still working. And let's try the 404 as well. Let's just make sure that works. We can just put in any slug there. And you can see here we have a 404 page. And if you go to the title, here we have the title 404. This page could not be found. And that is it. And yeah, so this page is done. I'm going to go walk through a similar pattern for one more page, and that's going to be the category page. All right. Back over to our code. We're going to go to the category page. And so same deal here. So let's create a category model. We're going to do export class category model, like that. And what do we need? What do we need for categories? We need, oh, let's go to the category, category detail page. We want this, find by slug. Again, similar. So honestly, we could just, we're going to copy both of these functions. And this is a hint that there's more abstraction to be doing, that we should be doing. Because look, getBySlug or fail, getBySlug, we're going to do these. These are going to be exactly the same for both of these models. So that should be a hint for you. And then I'll show you how you can do that. So instead of product, obviously we want category, like that. Bring that in. We want not found. We want category here. Category get payload client, like that. All right. That's fine. Let's go back to here. So instead of collection, we can do, instead of products, we can do categories, like that. And I think that should be, oh, we can do, just clean this up a little bit more. Category, like that. That looks pretty good. Let's go back to our namespace and just do the same thing. And there we go. So now let's go back to the page. and start replacing some of this. So let's do, we get rid of all of this, and we can say const category equals the weight local dot category dot get by slug or fail, like that. We don't need this client anymore, and all the rest should continue to work as is. We don't need this not found. And now let's go back to the generate metadata and do the same thing. Just copy this and just replace all of this. And instead of or fail, we can say get by slug, and that's done. And that's working. Let's go to the browser just to double check that we didn't break anything. Let's go back to here, go back to products, categories, category detail. And these are the products from that category. So far, so good. So let's talk about, before we wrap up, let's talk about how we would go about cleaning this up. So that you may have another page, like maybe you have a blog associated with your shop, and so you're likely going to be doing the same thing. So let's try to abstract that out. And again, this is completely your preference, based off your preferences and your team's preferences. So think about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this with a base model. Okay, so you'll notice, like I said, you're going to notice that these are functions, these are methods that are copied and pasted into all of your models that need a slug, or you can query by slug. So this sort of lends itself to an additional layer of abstraction. And so we're going to do that. We're going to create another class that these models will extend. And so we're just going to call this base model. And we're going to do export class base model, like that. And now we're just going to cut these out of here and paste them in here. And just import some of this stuff. And so we're not going to hard code the types in here for good reason. So what do? Well, this is where we're going to use TypeScript generics. And so you can pass in the type through the argument that the base model is going to require. And we're just going to call that T for now, which is pretty common. You can name it whatever you want. We're going to use T for type, and then replace all of these. Actually, we'll just do slug as string for now, and string. And here we're going to return a promise that's going to be this type or null. And collection here we'll clean up here in a second. And the way you do that is we're going to turn this into an abstract class. And this abstract class means that you cannot instantiate this class. You have to extend it. It can only be extended. And our category model and product model are going to extend these. But because now that it's abstract, you can say, let's call this abstract, and we'll call this collection. And then we're going to type it as collection slug. Oops. Like that. And clean up this. Now we can say this dot collection. And we're going to do here, the result here is paginated docs. This is a type from Payload. And here we're expecting a single we're expecting that model or that type, a single type of category, and so this is sort of a mismatch. You can see here, type data collection slug is not assignable to type T or null. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to just say as paginated docs, and then we're going to pass in T, which is just going to be shorthand for that that long. Here you can see here, hover this data from collection slug is just the long form of whatever the collection is, in this case T. So we're going to do that. And let's just rename some of this stuff just so we're not too specific. We'll call that doc like that. And I think we're good for the base class, the base model. Head back over to here. We don't need any of that now. And now we can say extends base model, but we need to pass in the type as an argument for that generic. Import that. And so now we're getting an error, meaning we're missing that collection slug. So we just need to set collection. And we're going to type this as collection slug equals categories. And you have all of your slugs here. And look, this is our entire category model. And now you can do the same exact thing for your product model. And instead, we'll just call this product. And we'll call this product. Put that over here. And we're going to do products. There. So your product model is done and your category model is done. And so we have category and product in there ready to go. Let's do a test in the browser just to make sure everything's still working. And sure enough, you got your category page working. The product detail page is working. We have our category listing page. We have our products listing page, although we haven't refactored this just yet. Let's do that now that this is cleaned up. So now all we need to do now that we have collection added to the model, it's going to be a lot easier now to do the find method on the payload. So let's go back to our base model here and start adding some additional functions in here, because we know for sure that other models are going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to call this and now you can call this whatever you want. And so we may just do find all or maybe just find or get all. For now we'll just call it get all because we have getBySlug. And so that's not going to, we'll fill in the arguments there in a second. And here we're going to grab this payload. Let's just grab all of this like that. And instead of slug, we're not going to have any where clause for now. And here we're going to do result. And we're just going to return result dot docs like that. And so the response here is going to be a promise of T, an array of T, or an empty array. think that should still work. Yeah. All right, so now we have a get all on the base model. Excellent. So this is going to be a lot easier now to go ahead and do our listing for the properties, the products page. Let's go back over there, products, and here's our products page. Here's the same thing. So now we can do products equals await. We do local dot product. Oops. Dot get all. And so we have products. We don't need payload anymore. We don't need the client. And now we don't even need docs, because we know for a fact that this is going to be an empty array no matter what. It's either an empty array or an array of products. And the products that come back are an array of the type product. So I think that's already done. So let's go back to the browser and just double check. Oh, you know what? I think we're returning one product on accident. Let's go back to the code and go to base model. And why? Oh, we did limit one, of course. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, now that looks better. We have all of our products. For this get all, what you want to do is default this where. So now we don't get an error on that. Close all of this up, and now we can create a cart.ts model, and we can do export class cart model extends base model, and this would be cart item like that and like that, and we can say collection slug equals cart items. There, our cart item, our cart model is basically done. Let's make sure it's accessible through our namespace. And now let's take a look at the cart code for now. I have a folder here for different forms. We have a cart form, and there's a lot of logic here, but basically you have increment, decrement, set quantity, handle quantity change, handle submit. And this is where we add, we have an action here. This is a server-side action. We grab the user. If they're not logged in, then we fail. We exit early from that. Then we validate the cart schema. This is using Zod. I'm not going to go into full detail on that, but I just want to show you here where we first want to find the product by product ID. So the product ID is part of the cart form, or the product form when you say add to cart. When you click the add to cart button, this is included. So we have to make sure that product exists. We want to make sure that the inventory is there. If the inventory is less than the quantity that the customer asked for, then we fail there. And then we say, check if the item already exists in the cart for this user. If it does, then all we're going to do is we're just going to update the quantity. We're going to assume if they add it to the cart again that they want to increase the quantity. So here we double check to make sure that there is enough inventory in the product, and then we do update cart items. Here's the ID for that cart item, and we update the quantity, and then If that fails, we just send a message that it failed. And then if it's not, the cart item wasn't found, was not added yet, we create it. We do payload create cart items, and here's the data. We have the product ID is a number, quantity, user ID. All right, so we have two methods that seem like they should be added to the base model now, because now we should be able to do something like local.cart.update, like that. And so we wouldn't need cart items, and this is all we would need. And then we would do local.cart.create here. We don't need that. And then that would be our data. All right. And what else? We also have remove from cart. We're going to need we can do we haven't done find by ID yet. We did find by getBySlug, but let's go ahead and do that. Let's add that one. And so I'm going to just call this we'll just call this get by ID, like that. And then we're just going to copy this like that, and then we're going to do find by ID, and we can get here, and this would just be ID, and then this would be as T, and then result like so. Oops. T and ID comes in here as a number or string, like that. So now we have get by ID. So let's do that. We have local.cart.get by ID. We don't need that. Oh, this is an object. We just want cart item ID. We don't need this object anymore. And there, that's pretty easy. And where else are we doing? We check the user, we do some validation here. And now we also need a delete. So we're going to add create, update, and delete. So let's just stub those out. Create, update, and delete, like so. And now we can do local.cart.delete, and we're just going to pass in the ID, like that. And so let's update this one. So this is going to take an ID, string or number, and then let's grab the payload client, and then we say await payload dot delete collection, this dot collection, and ID, like so. And then there we go. So now we have our delete working. So let's now add the create and the update. So we don't need, just need this ID. And we're going to pass in data as the second argument. We don't need that. We don't need this. We don't need this. And we're just going to do it like that. So let's go to update. Update requires an ID as a string or number. And we pass in the data. What is data? Well, data is going to be a, you don't want to update the ID. you don't want to update the updated at timestamp, and you don't want to update the created at timestamp. So you could just do T, but this is a little bit dangerous because you could end up passing. You want type safety, even though it won't work. You want this to tell you that you should not be passing in as data. You should not be passing in the ID or any of the timestamps. So over here, what we're going to do is we're going to say omit. We're going to use the omit object in TypeScript. All right. So we want ID created at and updated at. Oh, sorry. These are actually going to be sort of OR params. There we go. And don't worry about the blue squigglies. That's just an extension that I have to kind of give you a little bit more information about what this means. You can just say marked as learned and be good with that. And so for this omit, we want to ensure that the user does not accidentally add ID created at or updated at. And so now we have this data for this. So now we can just say payload here like that, and we can just say update here, and then we can just say data like that. And now for this update, we also need partial. We need partial here because we're not going to be updating everything. We're going to do type. We're going to do partial and then T like that. And that should fix, yep, there's our update. Our update is all clean now. We're only updating the quantity. But now if you say ID, it's not going to let you do that. You can do things like product. You can change the product ID. You don't want to do that. But you don't have access to updated at. You don't have access to created at or the ID. So it won't even let you do that even if you accidentally did it. All right, so what else? So here's our create. So let's now add our create. Basically, it's all going to be the same thing almost, except for we have data like so. And we don't need ID. And what else? Oh, and here's the create like that. And that should be good for our create. We only need to pass in the data. And so over here, you don't need this, you don't need this. And that's it, local cart.create. And I think we're done. Let's just get rid of the things we don't need anymore. And I think that's it. User, we don't need this. Where's this coming from? Oh, we're getting the product. So we already know how to get product. We can say get, we can say local.product.get by ID now. We don't need that. And we just need to pass in this like that. And so now we don't need this payload. Here's some cart items. We already know how to get that. So local.cart. Let's do get all, and then we can get rid of this, and here. This is where you could probably pass in some additional arguments for the limit. But for now, what is this coming out to? Cart item. Oh, you know what? This is returning the docs, so then we can just say result let's just say items. This is an array of cart items dot length, like that, and then we can just say items like that. So now we just need to grab the first one there, and so now we actually have a cart item or null. So we say if existing cart item, we grab the quantity, add the quantity, we do the update like we talked about, or the create, and that should be it. All right. We now can get rid of that, and we can get rid of this. And I think that should be it. So now we have a base model that's going to work for a lot of your models. As your application grows, you can now just abstract this base model. We don't need this. You can abstract this base model, and now you have getBySlug if you need it, getBySlug or fail if you need it, get all, getByID. You may want maybe getByID or fail. You can kind of do that here. We have create, update, and delete. All of this stuff nicely clean and abstracted out so that all of your models now have access to these really simple methods. Yeah, we have update, very clean. You don't have to keep passing in the collection name slug or anything like that. All right, so I think that's going to cover it for today. This one went on a little bit little bit longer than I wanted, but I hope it was really good information. We refactored quite a bit, and I hope you found that interesting or educational or fun, and hopefully you can bring some of this stuff into your own projects and advocate for something like this on the larger projects that you're working on with some of the teams that you're working with, if that's the case. So, all right, so that's going to be it for today. I really appreciate you hanging out with me on this one. I'm going to be doing more excursions in the future. A little bit more advanced, deeper dives into some topics that we will kind of gloss over in the main project, in the real estate project, but the excursions again will allow us to go into a little bit deeper of an understanding of what I did and why and all of that. So again, thank you so much. If you're new here, do subscribe. I have a lot more videos coming up. We're not even halfway through on the real estate project, so there's a ton more videos we're going to be doing on that one to get that finally completed. And yeah, so make sure you subscribe. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.